please.
Thank you so much, sir. So my presentation is titled Rethinking Pedagogy, Integrating Artificial Intelligence in Creative Writing Classrooms in India. And this presentation aims to look at the penetration of artificial intelligence tools in the educational domain, and more specifically, as I myself am an educator in the field of literature and who facilitate creative writing courses in undergraduate and postgraduate programs. So I would be looking at the possibilities, the scope of artificial intelligence tools in improving the pedagogic practices prevalent in the domain of creative writing. So creative writing as a distinct academic field is a relatively new concept which has steadily expanded in the United States and the UK, as well as to some extent in India. And this rapid reconceptualization of this academic field has led to a subsequent need to not only define and theorize the creative process, but also find out what pedagogy would be the most suitable one to teach creative writing as an academic discipline in maybe the higher educational institutions. Now, according to a study conducted by Harper and Kroll, who found out that creative writing as a subject in universities requires a triumvirate of practice, research, and pedagogy in being able to be employed and deployed in the classrooms. Now, pedagogy is one of the three essential legs of any academic discipline, the other two being research and theory, and this is also applicable in the field of creative writing pedagogy. Now, in the last few decades, there has been efforts to advance the pedagogy of creative writing, and the subsequent formation of the discipline of composition studies, which rose as a response to the intractable pedagogical problems associated with the traditional method of teaching creative writing. Now, this led to the rise of process pedagogy in the late 1960s and early 1970s, which countered the conventional mechanistic pedagogy for creative writing, and that led to the evolving theories and practical implications of it. Now, this constant movement of ideas between creative writing practice, university research, university teaching, this has spurred global debates concerning the relationship between creative writing as a practice-led activity, critical understanding drawn from writing as a practice-led, from practice, investigating that practice, and modes of teaching creative writing at a university level. Now, principles, methodologies, and theories underpinning this discipline are still emerging in a variety of cultural and institutional contexts. And as I have previously noted, that this present study, it will take into account through case studies and interviews how the scope of artificial intelligence can be employed, or rather can be examined in the discourse of creative writing curriculum in the higher education institutes of India. Now, creative writing pedagogy involves two elements: the act of writing creatively, and the act of critically considering that act and examining its results. So the focus is on how to organize the ideas and actions, how to employ discoveries, and how to communicate that information to evaluate understanding. Now, creative writing can refer to an action, a set of actions, and a consideration of both actions and artifacts. So, however, the focus in the subject of creative writing is on both action and process, something that differentiates it from the critical study of literature, theater, film, and media. For example, all of those subjects which employ an analytical exercise to read, to critically explore the pieces of literature. So these subjects, they involve creative writing, but they do not involve the creative practice which is involved in the creative writing pedagogy. Now, the predominant focus of creative writing pedagogy has initially been and has traditionally been the workshop model. And notable contributors include Marianne Kane, Lynn Domina, Anna Leahy, Eve Schellner, David Starkey, to name a few, who designed the optimal workshop methodologies for instructors. However, there exists an increasing demand to explore beyond this workshop model, which which should incorporate a more interdisciplinary approach, combined elements of digital technology, creative literacy, and more specifically, creative writing across the curriculum. Now, there has been a radical transformation in the pedagogic practices and assumptions, and of course, the entire field of curriculum design due to the influx of digital tools and more specifically artificial intelligence. And this proliferation of artificial intelligence and the digital tools that I was talking about, so that has been catalyzed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, artificial intelligence has been defined in innumerable ways by innumerable researchers. For our convenience, I will be focusing on this particular definition of AI, which is the combination of intelligence, that is machines capable of demonstrating human intelligence and of making decisions with human skills. Now, as this research considers the exploration of artificial intelligence in the domain of education, so it's also important to understand the development of a new discipline of AI called the educational AI. So EAI, or educational AI, it involves the implementation of artificial intelligence technologies in education, as well as the development of educational frameworks and the restructuring of significant educational elements or processes. Now, expectations from AI include meeting the diverse needs of learners, the needs which are often unfulfilled in classroom practices, in classroom practices, probably due to infrastructural lack, or maybe any sort of lack due to administrative policies or conceptualization of the classroom by the specific contexts. The second one is to offer personalized services in a ubiquitous learning context. And the third one is to create intelligent learning environments, intelligent support to the learning process, intelligent learning assessment, intelligent teacher assistant, and finally, intelligent educational management and services. Now, the questions which have been considered for this particular research involves the dominant idea that will an AI-driven pedagogy for creative writing be the next step? Because the way AI tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, they are infiltrating into the classroom discourse. So this question is a very pertinent one in the present day discourses on education. So the following are the questions that we developed for the present study. So the first question is, in what ways will it modify the conventional approaches of creative writing pedagogy? On what theoretical framework can such pedagogy be designed? And can the integration of AI tools in classroom practices of creative writing courses in higher educational institutes contribute to the achievement of the desired learning outcomes? And finally, can such integration be carried out in creative writing courses facilitated in higher education institutes of a nation like India, given the dynamic socio-cultural fabric of the nation, and of course, how that dynamic nature of the socio-cultural political context that envisages and that constructs the curricular framework of the nation. The aims of the study include to probe the possibilities of the incorporation of AI tools and creative writing pedagogy to foster a collaborative, activity-based learning environment, and secondly, to strategize or theorize collaboration between the facilitator and the technology, where technology is not seen as a replacement of the facilitator. So it's not man versus machine, but rather man and machine complementarily working with each other. Now, these are some of the major AI tools in use, at least, some of the tools which my students personally use, like the Voyant, Smart Writer, StoryLive, ChatGPT, Gemini, Verse by Verse. The method in which the study has been conducted are twofold. One, it involves case studies of classroom activities. This presentation will focus on only one particular classroom, case study. The others will be developed in the final paper. But for the keeping in mind the time constraint, we'll be talking only about one case study. So this presentation explores the possibilities of an AI-driven class on creative writing at the undergraduate level. The second one is it also involves the interviews conducted among select educators who are already exploring the possibilities of AI in the field of English literature classrooms, a part of which is explored by creative writing. Now, this is the first case study, and this case study involves, the findings of a classroom of undergraduate, of an undergraduate level of studies in second year. So, our undergraduate program of English, be it creative writing or English literature, is essentially a 3-year program which has been changed, which has been replaced by the new 4-year program envisioned by the National Educational Policy of 2020. Now, this particular study has been conducted in a 3-year undergraduate program and among students, among learners of second year. The objective was to see how the students autonomously express creative ideas in the form of a poem using AI as a scaffold. The theoretical frame which has been employed for this study is activity-based learning grounded on constructivist principles. The outcomes which were envisaged were, at the end of the session, learners were expected to write a poem individually based on their understanding and treatment of ideas which were provided by the facilitators using AI technology. The skills involved were the act of writing creatively and the act of critically considering the act and its results. So basically going back to the initial understanding or the root of a creative writing pedagogy. Now, to talk about how the theoretical framework of constructivism has influenced this present study. So, constructivism's central idea is that human learning is constructed, that learners build new knowledge upon the foundation of previous learning. This prior knowledge influences what new or modified knowledge an individual will construct from the new learning experiences. Now, this particular slide, it shows the interface of Google verse by verse, which was used for the first case study. So here the learners were given certain topics. Let's say they were given topics like autumn and hope and rejuvenation. So they were supposed to connect those ideas together and express that connection, articulate their understanding of that connection through a creative poem. Now, this was a particular session where they were learning about, where they already had ideas about certain American romantic poets American poets like, let's say, Emily Dickinson and Ralph Waldo Emerson, to name a few. So what happened was the students, they wrote a line of the poem and they were given a different prompt by this Google verse by verse. So at the end of this activity, which was a guided to an independent production, so what happened was the student, with their prior understanding of the stylistic features of these American poets, they were able to comprehend the ideas which were given in the class by the facilitator, interpret them in their own way, and explore the possibilities of that through a creative poem. Now, this is a sample student work. The first line, if you see, this ribs surround me, then wildly throbbing I must be, this was a line which was written by the student. And if you look at the second line, the second sentence was provided by the AI tool, in this case, Google verse by verse. The third sentence was once again the students, and the fourth sentence was by the AI. So it once again, when the AI is providing prompts, it's giving a series of prompts. The student, with his own critical way of analyzing, is able to choose which prompt to take and which one to completely ignore. So together they are creating this particular poem. So after this activity was over, the groups discussed the poems in class and went ahead to publish it in social media platforms. So this particular exercise, this is one of the many exercises that I will be dealing with in my study. So they were involved in a creative space that engaged them to critically think as well. So what is established through this particular case study is that, so instead of technology and humans separately functioning or functioning as two different entities, there is a blend of the two. There is an immersion of technology within the human exercise, and something which is as important as a creative space, which is in the entire epistemological discourse, it's perceived to be connected with the development of the self. So the very ontology of an individual is dependent upon one's own creative exercise. Now, the findings from this particular case study was that there is a scope of AI integration in creative writing pedagogy. A readiness has also been observed among the facilitators who were interviewed. There are ethical and pedagogic concerns about AI integration, and herein comes the role of the facilitator. So it's the course designer and the course facilitator who will have to negotiate the ethical and the pedagogic concerns of AI integration to make it to make it best suitable for the pedagogic practice. And of course, since this particular study has been conducted in the Indian context, this is in harmony with the vision of interdisciplinarity and the employment of digital tools in the classroom as per the new education policy. Now, the problem is that there is a dearth of literature concerning the use of AI tools in classroom practices, especially in the fields of creative writing and in the Indian context. Now, while conducting this study, I have consulted a lot of literature which has been produced by people all over the world who are exploring possibilities of AI in the field of STEM and other disciplines. But in the field of creative writing, and that too in the field of literature, the studies are pretty low. And that too, as I said, in the Indian context, with its own socio-cultural context, it's pretty difficult. Now, the conclusion of this research is that AI can serve as a collaborator and not as a supplement in the teaching learning process. And the role of the facilitator in this process is crucial. The study aims to establish that as the world moves towards Web 3.2 and Web 4.0, existing pedagogy of subjects like critical thinking and creative writing that hinge on fostering learners' autonomous expression or production must be recalibrated to accommodate the utilization of emergent technologies like AI tools in the classroom.
Thank you so much, Debanjali.